Hi YouTube, it's Crystal and I am back again to do a video today based if you should splurge or save on different beauty items. Now I have a pretty decent sized collection, but I do have quite a varied collection of cosmetics, and of course this is just my personal opinion, but I'm just gonna go over what products I think that you can splurge on and which you could save on, and which ones you should probably put a little more money into, and which ones you could probably get, for instance, at the drugstore or save on. Anyway, again, this is my personal opinion, but I'm just going to show you a couple products, so if this is something that interests you, stay tuned. Alright, so there are a lot of beauty products on the market, of course, as we know. These are just the products that I go to at the drugstore. I do feel like the drugstore does these products really well, and they're very comparable to high-end ones. So the first one I would say is mascara. So this is just an example of one. This right now is the L'Oreal Voluminous Power 24-hour mascara. And as you see here, it has a very thick wand, and I feel like it does the job just as well as some high-end ones that I have tried. I mean, I've tried a couple of high-end ones and they've actually disappointed me. So I tend to stay at the drugstore with my mascara. Another mention in terms of drugstore type of products are lip liners. Now, I mean, most of the lip liners that we have are going to be in, like, the reds or the browns or the pinks, whatever. I mean, I do have higher end lip liners, but I do find that these lip liners do just as good of a job if you don't want to spend like 18 plus, for instance, at the MAC's counter, or even upwards to that at other higher end brands than MAC, right? So this example I have is the LA Girls lip liner, which could be found at any beauty supply store, or NYX liners that could be found at Target or beauty supplies as well. These ones work equally as good, and they're usually about like $3 or $4 or so. So I find like those are the ones you don't really have to spend a lot on. Product, I know you're gonna say this is crazy because we've seen some of the other lip sticks that you've shown, but honestly there's a little difference, but you can really get away with getting drugstore lipstick. So the one I'm just going to show today is by Kate, Rimmel Kate line, and this is 107. I mean, this is is it going to be long lasting like some of the other ones? Maybe not as much. You will probably have to do a little touch up, but I mean, with lipsticks generally, if you eat or drink, you usually have to do a touch up anyway, so I don't think it's a big deal. Another really good drugstore brand, and this is from NYX. NYX has some really good lipsticks that I find is comparable to some of the higher brands as well. So I don't think you have to spend a lot on lipstick, especially if you are on a budget and you just want to stick with, just a couple colors like red or pink or whatever. Revlon, Rimmel, Maybelline, they all have really good lipsticks that I think are worth the tries, and you don't have to splurge on. Another non-splurge item I feel that you could get at the drugstore or any other stores are lip glosses. Now, these are from Victoria's Secret, so I got these on sale at their semi-annual sale, so I believe they're about $2 or $3, but this is the example I had. I mean, if you get lip glosses with like L'Oreal, again, any of the brands that I had listed previously, they're much cheaper and they do just as good as a job, I find. They can be a little more sticky, but again, if you're not picky and you're trying to save, that's definitely a good product to invest in at the actual drugstore. Another thing I find is like makeup cleansing removing towelettes. Now this is Pond's. This is my example where I'm almost finished, but these could be purchased, of course, at Walmart or Target or any drugstore for that matter, and I don't feel like you need to go and buy like $20 towelettes. You're just using it to take off your makeup and throwing them out. Plus, I mean, at least I wash my face after I use them anyway, so they're not really serving for any major benefit to me to go spend more on them. So those are definitely ones you can save on. Oh, another one that I could say that you could save on is like facial products. Like, I do have a few high-end ones in my actual collection. However, I do find some like drugstore ones work just as well. This is the Queen Helene facial scrub, and I've been using this for the last few days, and so far so good. I enjoy it thoroughly. It gets my face clean. I've been using also this toner. This is from the Body Shop. This is the Seaweed Clarifying Toner. I believe it's under $10 or so. I'm almost finished. I don't know if you can see, but this has worked really well for me. So I don't see any reason to invest any additional money into toner. The only thing I would look for are ones that are alcohol free, which they do have in the drugstore. So I believe you could save on toners and facial scrubs and washes for sure. Now, I'm just going to talk about some of the products that you could get maybe more mid-range. So you may have to spend just a little more money on them. And these are like stores like MAC or Sephora. Stuff that, I mean, some of the stuff in there is high-end, but these are just more mid-range. Things I think you need to shell a little more coin for, if anything. So the first one I'm going to start off with are primers. Now, I have in my hand the Urban Decay Primer Potion, which I've shown before. MAC paints, which are pretty good, and MAC pots, paint pots that are pretty good. Now these are a little more mid-range because they're gonna probably cost you about $20 or so, but this is, first of all, these will last forever, so it's not as if you're finishing them off every second and having to repurchase anything new. And these will keep your eyeshadows on your eye all day. So I think you should invest a little bit more money on that, again, because you're not buying the product that often and you want your eyeshadows to last and long at that. So I think those are products that you could invest just a little more coin on. Other ones would be eyeshadows. I mean, I have tried drugstore eyeshadows, but they never seem to work to me as good as a mid-range eyeshadow. So mid-range, I would say, would be like Urban Decay. This is just a random palette that I picked up. There's also, of course, MAC or Makeup Forever. Those ones I would consider mid-range because they are, you know, usually a little under $20, and of course they last forever, and you want them to be pigmented and long lasting, so you're going to spend just a little more money on those. Another thing, which again, I'm going to say this as a lady of deeper complexion, blush. Blush, blush, blush. I mean, these are just an example of my MAC palette that I have, an example of my NARS products. I mean, for us, because our skin is more deeply, or me, my skin is more deeply complected, I find that the drugstore equivalents don't usually give me as much bang for my buck. They're not usually as vivid as I'd like or long lasting. So definitely a little extra coin on a blush or two can't hurt. And I find that if I invest just a little more money into my blushes, I'm good to go, and they're pigmented and they show. Another product that I think you should sort of stick mid-range in would probably be your makeup brushes. Now this is an example. This is a Sigma flat top Kabuki. This is a Real Techniques brush. Your brushes that you're going to be using, I think you should invest a little more money in them. I'm not saying that you have to go completely high-end, but as high as you can afford, because these are stuff that's supposed to be in your kit for a good period of time, and you of course want your makeup to have flawless application, right? So I think you should spend just a little more money on your actual makeup brushes, whereas Real Technique is pretty affordable, which you can find at the drugstore, and Sigma, they're quite affordable too. You can of course order them right online. Other mid-range items I think that you don't have to splurge on per se, but you're gonna have to drop a little bit of coin if you want the long lasting and pigmentation, are highlighters. So this is an example of a highlighter. This is my Lorac highlighter in Baked Bronze. The Balm highlighter here, I don't want to blind you. So these are the two. These are more in the mid-range, and of course because there's deeper pigmentation and you want a long-lasting glow for the day, I find that investing just a little more money in those products are definitely helpful for keeping them long-lasting. Alright, so now I'm just going to go into what I consider the more higher end. So if you are going to spend anything in your collection, these are the products I think you should spend a little more money on. So the first I'm going to say would be foundation. Now foundation is a tricky thing to buy, and especially if you are of a deeper skin tone. Now my lighter ladies, you may be able to go and get a you know, a nice little Revlon or Maybelline and get a decent color for yourself and look that you desire. But with darker skin ladies, foundation is definitely something you're going to have to invest a little bit more money on, and if anything, I would go as high end as you can afford. Now this is an example of my YSL foundation. I'm not saying you need to drop 60 bucks on a foundation, because MAC has decent foundation, Becca has decent foundation. I mean, there's so many different brands that you can go like higher end with but not drop $60 on. But because of the colors, the undertones, the longevity, I think foundation is definitely something that you should invest a little bit more on, especially if you're a deeper complexion or very light complexion, because even very light people, really like Snow White light people, they usually have a hard time finding a decent foundation as well because of their color. So I think that's something to invest just a little bit more on. Another thing would be primer, a face primer to keep your makeup in place. Now this is a Laura Mercier foundation primer, and I think if you, especially if you have oily skin or you want your makeup to last, spending a little bit money on your foundation primer is very key to keeping your makeup in place and having to even use a little less makeup because your makeup isn't shifting around all day. So this is definitely something I would invest a little bit more on. Another thing would be your powders. Now I brought two examples. This is my MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in Deep Dark, which of course is more in the mid-range, but it could be considered higher end because there's a lot more cheaper ones on the market. And this is my loose Bobbi Brown finishing powder. Now again, because of the undertones and you want your makeup to last a little longer, I definitely would suggest investing just a little bit more just to make sure that you can prolong the wear of your foundation and your makeup as you go throughout the day. Also, another thing I think you should definitely spend on are concealer. Now concealer, this is just an example. This is my MAC Pro Concealer palette in dark. Concealer, I mean, you're covering up marks on your face, blemishes under your eyes, etc. You do not want it shifting. You don't want it to be too yellow or too stark. You also want to cover up your blemishes